Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome back to the show, where we interview the nation's leading real estate entrepreneurs. It's your host, Stephen Schmidt, back at it again. And I got a real treat for you guys here in the studio today. I got Sam Hindo in the house. Sam is a little bit of a hybrid. He's an investor, but he's also a broker. He got kicked out of his house in his early 20s, and he's now turned that into being a serial entrepreneur, owning several different homes himself, investment properties, and works primarily with investors. And we're going to get into a really cool conversation about his story, his experience, his background, and what got him to where he's at today, and what you can take away from that as somebody that's either in real estate, working on your own goals and dreams, or somebody that's wanting to get into it and see what's possible. So just remember, before we get started, that Investor Fuel, we help real estate entrepreneurs, service providers, and real estate professionals 2 to 5x their businesses in order to build the businesses they've always wanted so they can live the lives they've always dreamed of. With that being said, Sam, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for the introduction, Stephen. It's my pleasure.
You bet. Well, I'm really glad you're here, my friend. Glad to have met you, and glad we could spend some time together here. If you could, I know I gave you an intro. We kind of went all over the place there. Can you just tell us what actually got you into real estate in the first place, and how'd you end up where you're at now?
Yeah, I got into real estate. It was very interesting. Before I even got into real estate, I was trying to study to become a lawyer. I didn't really have any interest in the law. I was just trying to do it just for the hell of it. And one time my uncle came into town, and, somebody in our family does real estate and they do well. So I said, you know what, I can do it. I think I can do it. It's something that not a lot of people think they have the confidence to do. You really need a lot of belief in yourself to be a real estate agent, because it's not easy working with people you don't know.
Sure.
And that was the reason why I didn't go into it initially. And another reason is I used to work for an accountant, and he told me, just get the license. If you sell one house, you sell one house. Like, you can quit anytime you want. So I said, oh, wow, it's that easy. Like, if I just sell one house, I can quit. Okay. So I tried it, and I haven't looked back ever since. It's been a really big blessing in my life, for sure.
Yeah, that's a hilarious synopsis, I guess, in short, where the whole decision was made off of, oh, well, if I just suck at it, I can not do it. Cool, I'll do it, I guess.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And now you've turned it into major success. So
yeah, because I totally bombed the LSAT. The first time, and I said, I don't think I could put myself through that emotional trauma. Like, all my cousins are lawyers in California. They were like to me,
really?
Trust me, you're doing good. You don't need to be a lawyer. So I'm happy.
No kidding. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So is law kind of a background outside of just like the cousins? Is it like kind of a family thing, or like who just wakes up and decides, I think I want to be a lawyer for the hell of it? How does that work out?
I like to argue, and I like to, get the final word sometimes. I feel like that was kind of who I was in my earlier immature years. I always thought I was right, but I was somehow good at, like, getting down to the bottom of things. And I said, people need somebody like me. I know I'm tough. So that's
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
definitely something I can market myself as. But I realized that being in the emotional state that I was in at that time, I couldn't go through with it because I was going through a lot of um, difficult life circumstances. And there are a couple people in my family that are lawyers, but they didn't inspire me. I think it was something that I just wanted to do, and I changed my mind about. That's the truth.
Sure. So now,
Yeah.
you mentioned in your bio, and we talked a little bit pre-show that like, getting the boot out of your house was kind of like a real big motivator for you. What kind of led up to
Mhm.
that, and then what were you going through at that time that kind of springboarded you to really getting started with where you're at now?
That's a really good question. So I used to live with my dad, and my dad is not really business savvy. Like sometimes, my aunt lives in California, and when I was 14 years old, she bought a house in Hemet, California, and she basically bought this house to give to my father to purchase from her so he could move to California to live with his siblings. At that time, I was convinced that it was a good investment. I was still 14. I didn't really know about real estate, but I said, you should totally do it. Buy the house, and if you don't like it, just sell it, move back to Michigan. But you have to take action. And I just felt like I was always like thinking ahead,
Hmm.
and that really helped me because me and my dad are so different. That's kind of what led us to being in a disagreement with each other. And the thing that caused the biggest rift between me and my dad is I bought a house behind his back, and he didn't approve of it. And I didn't really have time to run it by him. I said, I can't have his mentality where I sit and I wait. I just have to buy the house, like I said. And so I bought it, and I didn't know that I was going to end up in real estate. I really just wanted to buy that house so I could move away from my family. But that turned into a huge learning lesson, and I actually have a video on YouTube explaining it all about how I bought the house. An investor from Florida bought me out of this investment. He's now my best friend. He does really well, and he's taught me so many things. So sometimes just taking the opportunity, even if it's not the most attractive thing, you can still benefit from because you still have went through the learning experience, and a lot of people haven't. So that's kind of what allowed me to get to the next level, is that I would say my ballsy persona, where I just don't
Okay.
care. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So, correct me if I'm wrong here. I want to make sure that I get this specific for our listeners, but the house you bought wasn't necessarily the house your dad was looking at in California, was it? You
No,
just decided I'm going to buy an investment property.
yeah, this was years later, and it was like I was 24 at the same
Yeah.
age that I left my parents' house. I decided I wanted to buy it because it was a duplex, and those are
Hmm.
very attractive properties, and I won the bid. It was actually a land bank home,
No
and
kidding.
I found it, and some guy in my Uber, when I used to drive for Uber, he was like to me, "Man, these land bank houses." I'm like, "What's a land bank house?" So I went home and I Googled it, and I seen the duplex. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna bid on this house." I had $5,000 in the bank. I said, I'm gambling it all. I don't care. I was the biggest bidder, and I didn't think I was going to win. All of a sudden, they sent me an email and they were like, "Congratulations, you won the bid." And I'm like, I'm a homeowner. That's crazy. Because once
Wow.
you win the bid, that's it. Like, you own the house, basically.
Wow. Now,
Yeah.
so
You just have to,
so
yeah.
you I'm assuming the house wasn't 5 grand though, right? So like once you got yourself into that, what I love about this is that you just like took action against,
Hmm.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
An impending risk that you probably didn't even know was there at the time. Am I
Yeah.
wrong in assuming that? So the question
No.
is, when that happened and you're like, "Oh, I guess I'm a homeowner now." Like,
Yeah.
what did you do to make sure that you wrapped that deal up? Because I know, like, even with a lot of auctions, like, you got to have cash on hand ready to go as soon as you win. How did you unscrew yourself once you actually won that bid?
I have this mentality of buy the cow and figure out how to eat it later
Mm,
kind of mentality. And that's helped me a lot in life because a lot of people, I would say are, oh my gosh, I can't handle it, or it's too intimidating, or I'm gonna fail. I always tell people just take the action and you will learn and it will allow you to get to the next step. So when I bought that house, of course it was intimidating. It was in Detroit. My parents would never be okay with me buying a house there. And I was young. I actually, never even been in Detroit, that part of Detroit before. So when I ended up winning the bid, I never seen the inside of the home, but I knew it was a duplex. I knew it was valuable, so I knew I wasn't going to lose money on it. But I did make a mistake with that investment because I ended up just cashing out of it just because I wanted to move on. That was a mistake, but the learning experience was something that I gained for sure. Yeah.
Now, so this is like your obviously your first deal, your springboard. Did you at one point live in part of that house, or did you just hold it as an investment property? I mean, you got kicked out over it. So like, was that the point
Yeah.
where you're like, okay, I guess I live there now, or what was kind of that journey from the time that you acquired it to then obviously offloaded it and sold it to, now who's one of your best friends?
Yes. I I actually voluntarily, it was a mutual decision when I left my dad's house. It wasn't like you have to leave. Like we were both
Right.
okay with it. And I ended up packing an overnight bag and living in the duplex for about 3 weeks. In December, it wasn't super cold. Maybe it was like 50 degrees and maybe in the 40s at the lowest, high 40s. But I had blankets, I had candles, I had everything I needed, and I just felt like this freedom that I never experienced ever in my life. And I
Mm,
said, "What should I do?" It's like, you know what it is? It's like winning the lottery and you don't know what to do with the money. It's that
mm.
feeling. I was like, "What am I gonna do now? I have all these options because I don't have to ask anybody anymore." Because when you in a Middle Eastern family, you have to ask your parents' permission before you do anything, basically, for the most part. So I was like, oh my God, I don't have to ask them anymore. I'm going to just buy a million houses and become rich. So that's kind of the mentality I had. But I ended up going between Airbnbs. I found a rental in Troy that I lived in. Now my roommate is now my best friend as well. So you meet many friends along the way. And that's how life is. It's like a journey, and people are meant to help you, and you should make the best out of it.
I think you bring up a really good point there too. That like I think a lot of people listening, especially somebody that comes from like a traditional American background, they think like, dude, kicked out in your 20s. Like I was 17, I was 18 when I got kicked out. I mean, and it's
Yeah.
like there's such a very different cultural aspect to what you're talking about too, of like your family. And correct me if I'm wrong in that culture, but like the whole goal is to raise as a family and be a part of that family essentially forever. And like you get married and have your
Hmm.
own family someday. But like that's really kind of the pivotal point of like, okay, now you're the man of your household, right? Tell me if I'm
True.
wrong there.
No, you're right. You're
So
right.
this
But
is
it's
like a
it's
very big thing for you in your life, especially with probably everything you were raised with and kind of what you were raised to believe in things too. Am I right?
yeah. And another point I want to bring up is sometimes in a Middle Eastern household, um, the they tend to instill certain beliefs in your mind from a young
Sure.
age about scarcity.
Hmm.
You should be okay with what you have,
Right.
and they never really had the mentality of like go out there and
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
make the most money as possible. Now, there are Middle Eastern families that are like that. They encourage their kids to make
Sure.
money. Mine is not one of those families.
Right.
So I really had to find it within myself.
Mm. So now, obviously, coming from being raised with dare I say, even like limiting beliefs, and just be grateful for what you have. It's so interesting you bring this up. I had another person I interviewed recently who recommended a Grant Cardone book to me, which I hadn't read. I don't really follow a whole lot of Grant Cardone stuff, but he had recommended this book called Be Obsessed or Be Average. And I started reading it, and he talks about the same exact thing. Like his dad died when he was 10 years old, went from basically achieving his entire dream to like they're living in a small house, sold the lake home property, all that, and his mom was telling him all growing up like just be grateful for what you have. And he grew up with this idea that it was like wrong to want more, almost even.
Mhm.
And so what's interesting is it's almost becomes the fuel that sets you afire to where you're at now. So on that journey, you did that, you jumped in, you bought the cow, figured out how to eat it. What did it look like from there? Like in this process, had you gotten your real estate license at that point? Were you in the process, or what's the time gap between you've got this property now, you figured it out, you're out of your house and you're on your own, you have this newfound freedom, and you're just getting started on like life almost, even from what it sounds
I,
like.
I picked real estate over everything. Like I made it a priority at that point. I'm like, I'm gonna be in real estate and I'm gonna be known for real estate. So I didn't have my license, no. I wasn't fully convinced on getting it yet. I wasn't fully convinced until I worked at the tax firm and he told me to just get it. He's like, just get it over with. And I was like, okay, let me just pay the fee. At that time, you're like scratching for change. So paying for the classes and stuff is crazy because you're like, why am I paying $100 something when I could go get a regular job? That's the mentality when you're first starting out. And then when I made my first sale, I think my commission was like close to 3,000. I'm not sure. It was like around that. I was like so overjoyed. I was like, this is like 3 months or 2 months worth of work that I don't have to work. This is crazy. So it bought me a lot of time to develop my business and get more clients. And I didn't start off wanting to be an investor. By the way, I thought I was going to be on $1 million listings when I first got into real estate. I really did. I was like, I have the look, I have the big personality. And then my broker looked at me and he's like to me, there's not that many $1 million homes in Michigan. And I
Yeah,
said, so? I said,
I
so
love it.
who said I'm going to be stuck in Michigan?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Defying all of the limiting beliefs from everyone on every party. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Where does that where does that drive come from? Where do you think that comes from?
I think it comes from not having money
Mm,
as a kid and going to we have people that do really well in our family, and I always wondered like why aren't we doing that well, or why can't we do better? So that affected me from a young age. I never resented anybody for it. My dad is a very hard worker and he makes a decent wage for the type of job that he does, and I never took that away from him. I never disrespected him for it. I just wanted more for myself.
mm,
And even though in the beginning nobody understood me, they really didn't support me. They thought I was crazy. They were like, why don't you just become a lawyer? Why don't you become an engineer like your brother? I was like, I just don't have it in me to be like working in an office. Like, I'm too hyper. I would literally be like tapping my fingers on the desk all day. They would be think I'm crazy. So I knew I couldn't live that lifestyle. So I was like, okay, if I can't live that lifestyle, I have this big personality. People know who I am anyway. Why can't I make a business out of it? You know? So that's kind
You know,
of
you
where it
bring up
came
a
from.
really you bring up a really interesting point, and I want to ask you a question about it, but it comes with a little bit of backstory because I have always hated when people would ask like, "What's your why?" And I think part of the reason is because of the manifestation of like the physical things that I want to do for people, how I want to help people, the things I want to do for my parents, the things I want to do for my siblings, the
Mm-hmm.
person I want to be in my family, etc. Like it's always evolving, and I could never pinpoint like what is my why. But like I
Exactly.
remember as young as 6 or 7 years old going into a Chili's asking my parents like, "Do you think the people that own this are millionaires?" And I couldn't for the longest time, literally until this year, figure out like why am I like this? Like why have I
Mm-hmm.
always been driven for more? And then it hit me, and I was like, you know what? I think it goes back to a point in my childhood where although my parents were like pretty successful middle class, you know, we never had anything we didn't necessarily, I guess, you know, need. Like that was never an issue for me growing up, but
Mm-hmm.
and very blessed for that. But I remember conversations like when we'd want something, and I would remember subconsciously, and then I was able to put conscious memories to it recently where it was like my mom would be like, well, no, we're not going to do that because money this, money that, money this
Of
right now.
course. Of
And
course.
it hit me, and I was like, holy shit, my why is
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to tell my kids no someday. Like, I want to be able to
Yeah.
experience everything this life has to offer and not have to say no. And dude, that
Mm-hmm.
crushed me because I was like,
Yeah.
holy cow, the whole reason I want to be rich is so I can say yes to everything. And I'm like, I finally
Exactly.
figured it out. So, like,
Yeah.
does
You're like,
does
why
your
can't we go go-karting? Why can't we go to Disney
exactly?
World?
Oh my gosh, man, exactly. So I guess with that, do you have like a similar story? You're a little older than I am, not much, but do you have you come to that same
Really?
realization of like what your why is? Yeah, a little bit. I know I look like I'm 40, but
No, we look.
um
I was gonna say maybe we were like a year apart.
yeah,
I wasn't
we're pretty
sure.
close. We can talk
Yeah.
off air about it, but yeah, we're pretty close
Okay.
there. But so, and I guess relating to that, not to get into an age deal, but it was more of like, have you gotten to that point where you've like really realized like that internal, that core why of why you are the way you are, why you do what you do, why you want what you want? Have you come to that realization yet?
Yes. Yes, for sure. I think stability is underestimated, and people don't
Mm,
talk about it as often.
you
But
bet.
coming from a family where, you're worried and you're a child and you're worried if your parents are going to make enough money, or that's not something a child should worry about, I think.
Right.
So it's not that I want my kids to be living in luxury. I just don't
Sure.
want them to be stressed out about the things that adults are supposed to be stressed out about,
Mm,
if that makes
yeah.
sense. Because I was stressed out about things that were not even my business. I'm just like, why do I even care about this? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like where I'm coming from?
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree, dude. Like it's the same thing with not even just like we could make it not anything that's not financial too. It's like the same reason, like, you know,
Yeah.
you're a 9 year old, 10-year old kid and you learn about divorce and you go up to mom or dad and you're like, hey, you know, if they're still together, for example, and it's like, hey,
Hmm.
are you guys ever going to leave each other? You know, it's like those same things that like
That's
as
really
kids
sad.
that we worry about of like we shouldn't worry about it, but we do, right?
Yes.
Because it's that internal security as a kid that we're always like looking for to manifest outwardly, right?
Exactly. And kids are a lot smarter than we think they are,
For sure.
because they internalize everything and they study adults. They say, why is he doing this? Or why is my dad driving this car? Or why are we eating at this restaurant? So they're asking a lot of questions from that age, and they're learning. And in that process, as an adult, that's where we're supposed to teach the kids, hey, this is what we can afford, or this is what kind of food we like to eat. Because like when I was growing up, my dad used to love going to this kebab joint in Dearborn, and I'm like, Dad, I don't like kebab. It just had a really sour taste to it,
Yeah.
but I was forced to go, and he would buy me like French fries and stuff like that. But it can be something so small, like just you not having the same
Right.
preferences as your family. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that was Cinnamon's Deli for me, bro. I used to hate grape jelly when I was like 7 years old, man. We'd go there and I'm like, like, why can't I just get McDonald's? It's down the street. I mean, come on, we're already here.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
funny. Man, we've got very interesting, similar backgrounds
You know,
from our childhood. Very interesting.
you know what's really tempting? These
Hmm.
smoothie places and these pretzel places, the ones where you dip it in the cheese. Oh, my God, those were so good.
Yeah,
Those were the best.
100%. I am 100%. Dude, and food is
Cotton
like,
candy.
I could talk food all day long, bro. Like that,
Me
that's been
too.
a thing since yeah, oh man, I could do that all day. But
I feel you
kind of
on that.
circling back a little bit. So now where you're at today, successful broker, you're just like a pioneer essentially in everything you're doing.
Thank you.
What what's next for you? Like what's like the real big long-term thing for you? When are
You
you gonna
know,
feel that security of like I made it? Or will you ever?
it's not security. I feel like it's
Mm,
me being satisfied. Me being satisfied with the place that I'm in life, and that doesn't have a number. For me, it's like if I wake up one day and I'm like, I even seen like a video on social media, and sometimes I'm like meditating and I'm like, what type of person do I want to be in 10 years? We should always be asking ourselves that, by the way, because time really does go by quickly. And I'd seen this guy on Facebook. I think it was like a Facebook video, and they asked him like he went up to him in a coffee shop in Miami, and he asked him like, "What do you do for a living?" I think he was wearing like a really nice watch. I noticed it. That's something I noticed with people.
same.
And he's like, "I actually own," I think he said 13 companies. It was crazy. I was like, "Wow." He looked like he was probably in his late 30s at most. And they asked him, they were like, what kind of companies, or what's the name of your company? He's like, it's like this international real estate company, and I'm in the hospitality business. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to be in the hospitality business because I love, well, because, we're Middle Eastern and we love hosting people. So that
Sure.
goes hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We like
awesome.
it. But most of the hotels, surprise, I don't know if the viewers know this, but I think they say, you can fact check this, but they said about 80% of hotels in the United States are owned by Indians. Not Native
Really?
Americans, Indians. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like India, the continent country.
From India,
Dude, I'm gonna
correct.
get shredded on the internet for that.
I know, I am too. I'm sorry. My
We're
best
both
friend is
screwed.
Indian.
We're in
My
it
best friend
together.
is Indian.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, but no, to
Yeah.
your point, like I even, what's really interesting too is I think India is one of those really downplayed places, like of how large it actually is, how much family wealth even is there too.
Yes.
Like I had a conversation with a guy that I was talking to him and I'm like, I don't want to say, actually I'm gonna recant what I was saying.
Go
I
for
had
it.
a conversation with a guy who I'm gonna give zero details about, so I don't disclose who it is that I'm talking about. But I'm talking to him and I'm like, man, like this just goes to show like how different people get raised in different ways. Like he married into a family that's running a $20 million fund. I'm gonna fudge these numbers so that way it's non-identifying, by the
Wow.
way. But to the extent like they're building hospitals and hotels and this and that, and it's like the dude probably knows nothing about single family real estate, but he doesn't need to because they're not focused on how do I flip houses and buy this and that. They're focused on how do we take 10 million and 2 to 3 exit in the next 5 years. And it's like just opens your mind to a different level of, oh man, there's so much more wealth out there than you really realize till you start having those conversations.
But everybody gets their head start from somewhere.
You bet.
Everybody gets their chance from somebody. So
Right.
nobody just wakes up and is like, "Oh my gosh, I have to build $1 million hotel." They have to know people, and I always find that in certain communities, I'm Middle Eastern. Certain communities they have strong family ties. They do business together. They support each other. Like they open
Right.
a business, they all go to the grand opening, or they prefer to shop at their cousin's supermarket or,
Right.
whatever. I think support is important as well in
Yeah.
business.
100%.
So,
How important do you think aggressive patience is when you're building something great?
How aggressive? Say that again.
Yeah, it's kind of a term I like to use. It's not really like a thing, I don't think, but I like to call it aggressive patience. I think Ed Milet might define it better. It's like you're blissfully dissatisfied. So like you're grateful for what you have, but you're also
Mm-hmm.
not satisfied with what you have. So there's like what's the right word? There's an urgency to your step, but also like a wholeness and like I know what I'm doing, even though it's maybe not paying off yet.
Sure. Now that I understand your thing, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so how important has aggressive patience been for you in building what you're building?
It's very important, and there's a very thin line between that and being desperate. I never like to be desperate because I always find that when I'm desperate and I want to do something on my time, it never works to my advantage because
Right.
that's not
You
how life
think different.
works. Yeah. Like I write it on paper. Like they say write your goals on paper and I'm like, look, if I accomplish this by the end of this year, I'm good. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. It does like even me becoming a broker, it took me a year of studying
Mm,
because I took it very serious and I didn't want to take the exam and fail. And I ended up passing it, by the grace of God. But when I became a broker, I was like, wow, what am I gonna do now? Like this is new to me. A lot of real estate agents don't want that responsibility, by the way, of being a
sure.
broker.
Yeah. Oh, trust
So
me, I know. I talk to a lot of them for some reason.
they
I
don't
don't know
like
how I
it.
keep talking to so many real estate people.
They like talking. They're people. They're they're social people.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times not the most organized either.
Disorganized?
I said
For
not the
sure.
most organized. You said disorganized. I said not the most organized. You know.
No,
Uh,
you're saying the what is it called? The politically correct
right.
form. Yeah,
Exactly.
I know what you're
It's like
saying.
it's like
No.
me. When somebody asks me if I'm organized, I say I'm working on it. You know what I mean? I say,
Exactly.
look, I didn't get the default of I didn't get the default like my wife did of just naturally being very good at organization and stuff. But I'm a work in progress. I work real hard at it. That's how I like to put it.
Exactly.
Um,
Real estate's more of a lot of people think it's like about organization, which is important, of course. Every business that you do needs organization, but it's more of a patience um business because like let's say you turn down a client. For example, you're like, I don't want to take this client because they're not looking in the next 6 months. A lot of real estate agents I know don't want to work with people who are not like hot on the market, ready, let's buy tomorrow, I got the cash, let's do it. So there is a market for people that are patient to take these clients and work them because everybody's workable. As long as there's motivation, then you can make something out of it, right? Me, if I'm being honest, I'm not the most patient. I'm not
me neither.
just because I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna wait a whole year for this client, right? By the time I text them, call them, do everything I need to do, they're going to forget about me and work with another real estate agent, you know? And that's what a lot of real estate agents fear. But I definitely like to build that trust where I don't feel like, okay, they're going to work with another real estate agent. And I always tell them, look, if you want to go work with another agent, go ahead. Just let me know. You know, communications is really important to me. So,
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think it comes down to an alignment of core values too, because I'm the same way. I factor every single minute that I have. I look at it as it having a dollar amount, and I try
hmm
to find trends. Right, like how I analyze things is trends, and it's one of those deals like when I'm in a sales environment, for example, like
right.
I'll always follow up because that's important. Like we hear that from every sales trainer. It's always important to follow up, right? But there is a
hmm
life cycle between when following up no longer makes sense. Like I love
Right.
to think about Ryan Serhant to bring somebody that's kind
Wow.
of like similar to what you're doing. Ryan
Yes.
is probably the king of follow up. I don't know if you've read his book Big Money Energy, but there's guys Ryan's followed up with for 6, 7, 8 years. And when you factor the time in, if he sells a $30 million property to somebody, and as a broker, let's say he gets 6%, maybe spending the 220 hours of following up and finally getting that deal after 5 years worth it. Most people don't sell something expensive enough to where doing that makes sense. And so when you factor that in, it's like,
True.
why spend the time to make $7.25 an hour or $3 an hour when I could just work with the people that are the hottest? But it's still important to keep that mindset, I think, too, in terms of
That's true.
the patient side.
But I will tell you this, not a lot of people in the real estate business are ever going to be at his level, and that's the
Oh,
truth.
I
He's
agree.
just his type of success is, I don't want to say unattainable, but I personally I like him I like his personality on TV. He's not somebody I can relate to
Sure.
personally. Um he's very overly confident, and he goes in a circle of people who are very successful. And let's
Sure.
face it, when you're on TV, you're selling $1 million properties. You're good looking, you have a good personality. That's very attractive to people.
Sure.
So, do I think he has to work as hard as the average person to get what he wants? No, I don't. But I think maintaining it is just as hard, you know?
Sure.
So, yes, he's at that level, but I mean, I like him. I don't think he's somebody that people who are getting in the real estate business should necessarily look up to. I think there's a lot of people that have more relatable stories. I haven't really done much research on him. Like I said, I just watched him on
You
TV.
should really go look into how he got started.
Okay,
If you
I
think,
will.
yeah, I would highly recommend it because I would say that because like I've extensively studied his journey and
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, I would say there was a little bit of luck paired with incredibly hard work. Like I don't want to factor out that luck might not have had a little piece to do with it, but
Yeah,
dude,
of course.
if you actually read his story, it's like there's no possible way that this happened. Like there's
Wow.
no way you didn't fail and move to small town Iowa to be a farmer. Like it's the craziest story. But anyways, we kind of got off the
I'm gonna
rails.
look into that. I feel bad for saying that because I don't really know much about him, but like I said, he's a TV personality, so
Sure.
that's the only thing I'm judging him off of. I never
Right.
knew his background was, I never knew he came from humble beginnings, because
Yeah.
when you watch the show and he's in New York and he's in all these
Right.
big buildings and talk, I love his personality, I really do.
Sure. It's
But I'm
perception,
just like,
right?
huh?
It's perception, right? It's what
Yeah,
they create it
yeah.
to look like.
Yeah. That's the perfect name for his book. What did you say his book was called?
It's called Big Money Energy.
He has big money energy.
He does, 100%. And I would recommend anybody in the real estate space, whether you're retail or you're an investor, whatever you're doing, like that book is in my Mount Rushmore of sales mindset books. It's really a story more than anything
Hmm.
is what the book is really about. It's really just his story, but it's so well told and you can glean so many principles for life out of it, in my opinion.
Mm.
Like I read it in 2 days. There's only
Really?
three books.
Wow.
Oh yeah, there's only three books that I can say that I've read in less than a week in the last 5 years,
Yes.
and that's one of the three. Um,
Wow.
so highly recommend it. But anyways, man, we're super over time, but I
Oh,
want to make sure to
wow.
respect your time too here. And so can you tell these fine folks as they're listening where can they connect with you for more, Sam, if they want to learn more about you or what you're working on?
Yeah, you can connect with me on social media. My Instagram is the Hindo Realty Group. You can send me a direct message and we can connect. Whether it's like a podcast or like business dealings, like I'm open to different ideas, business ideas. Um, and that would be the quickest way to reach me, or Sam Hindo on Facebook. You can add me on Facebook as well.
There you go, folks. We'll go connect with them for more. I hope you got as much value out of this conversation as I did. I know I met a new friend that I'll be in touch with for a long time. And
Yeah, for sure.
uh,
It was so nice talking to you, Steven.
well, thanks
And
so
can
much
I
for
say
giving
one
us some
last
time,
thing?
Sam.
Can I say
You
one
bet.
last thing? The last thing I wanted to say was, as great as people like Ryan Serhant is, and as respectable as the work that he does, I feel like yes, it's important to have a role model, but it's also important to do what works for you, and what
100%.
works for somebody else doesn't necessarily gonna work for you. Make the best out of the situation that you're in, and yeah, that's the best advice I can give to somebody that's watching this video.
100%. That's great advice, Sam. Thanks so much for being here again, brother.
Thank
Hope
you
you
so
guys
much.
enjoyed
I
it. We'll see
appreciate
you in the
it.
next episode.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.